Welcome back. So let's delve into the dailies now this morning, and let's also welcome our media analyst and guest, Mr. Dayo Akintobi, who's looking dapper on a Friday.
Thank you very much. Good morning,
I was wondering if you were headed for Ibadan for the coronation ceremony.
It's casual Friday. They say leave the tie at home.
Yeah,
this is casual me.
Okay, great. But there'll be more flowing agbadas in Ibadan this morning.
Yes, indeed.
The Nigerian News Direct, has that set on its front page. Ibadan set for historic coronation as Ladoja ascends as 44th Olubadan. So it's, a crown, really. Not just a physical crown, but a crown on the achievements of the former governor of Oyo State. But I'll let you do the honors and help us understand the significance of this coronation for now His Royal Highness Rasheed Ladoja.
Yes, it's almost unprecedented that someone will bestride the political sector and then also now ascend to the cultural throne, whereby he's now able to lead from two different fronts. And also we should remember that his political career was not without controversy. He was impeached, I think, during the regime of President Olusegun Obasanjo, and he went to court, he fought, he eventually got reinstated, came back to office, then I think he ran after the end of his first term and didn't make it again. So in spite of the fact that he had grand ambitions for the state of Oyo, his political career kind of was truncated based on some disagreements he had with people like Lamidi Adedibu, President Obasanjo himself. So he seemed to be down and out at some point, and to now see his resurgence coming back into preeminence as the traditional leader of Ibadan, which of course is the seat of everything Yoruba in Nigeria. That's the oldest Yoruba enclave in the entire Southwest. It has so many landmarks and so many achievements that put Yoruba on the forefront, the Yoruba nation on the forefront of Nigerian heritage. So this is historic in many measures. The also intriguing thing about it is that the succession to the Olubadan throne is of such a particular mechanism that it is rancor-free, unlike many other traditional seats, that there's usually a lot of court challenges, there's issues of who should present the candidate, should it be the deities, or should it be the kingmakers, should it be the governor. In this case, there's a succession plan that's been in place for decades, to where the next aspirant to the throne or the next contender for the throne is already known because they have a succession plan. So that makes Ibadan's own relatively straightforward and smooth. So today is historic in many measures. You see all the big people who are, the president is said to be going to attend this coronation because it is a marriage of both politics and culture.
And that's another part of the conversation. Many are asking, why is it so important for the president to leave Onga, important as it is, the vice president, for domestic matters such as the coronation of the Olubadan? What's between Mr. President and Chief Rasheed Ladoja?
Well, well, of course, remember that they were both governors at the same time. So they belong to the same fraternity, the same class of governors, because they both held helm in their respective states at the same time. So also, at the moment that he was impeached, I understand that it was then Governor Tinubu who stood up for him, who actually even put forward a legal team that went to challenge the impeachment that ultimately succeeded. So there's been some sort of fraternal love between the two of them right from the beginning, to where President Tinubu will not only fund his legal challenges to his impeachment, also even offered him, I understand, succor and accommodation, and really reached out to him as a brother who he felt had been dealt a hand of injustice. So it's just that love that's continuing to flow through that has always existed between them from the beginning. But there's also a side of Nigeria that feels like we don't need to attend every single overseas engagement. Yes, as important as Onga is, a lot of Nigerians feel like we have homegrown issues that require presidential attention in Nigeria, and that it was very okay for him to deputize the vice president to go and deliver his speech for him. And Vice President Shettima did a wonderful presentation, and I think it was a great outing for Nigeria in terms of his eloquence, his delivery, and the substance of what he had to say, even though he was speaking for President Tinubu. So I don't think we lost anything by virtue of the fact that the president did not go. And I also admire the fact that the issue is more on the focus is more on internal issues. This Ibadan coronation is key to Southwest Nigeria. It is key to Nigeria as a whole in terms of our cultural heritage. And there's been a diminishing of our culture. There's been a lot of seeping in of Western influences into our culture over time. So when you see an occasion that brings out the pomp and pageantry of our culture, it's something to be celebrated by everyone, from the president to the lowest citizen of Ibadan or your state and Nigeria.
I like the fact that you've had to, walk us through that background and that historical relationship between Ladoja and the current president.
Yes.
But some will also argue that, Vice President Shettima has not had to pull some of the weight that the president could have pulled in terms of having some sort of high delegation meetings right there in New York. But let's turn our attention to the New Telegraph. It leads with something different. It says high stakes of INEC's leadership transition ahead of 2027 polls. High stakes of INEC's leadership transition ahead of 2027 polls. There are other riders underneath that. It says Atiku, Obi, Amechi pledged to support ADC's presidential primary winner as party extracts to commitment from aspirant. Mandates all members to resign from other parties. That's the ADC coalition mandating all members of the coalition to resign from other parties and move to the, I'm trying not to use the word umbrella of the ADC now, but that's what the mandate is. I wonder what your thoughts are, plus the fact that, the presidential candidates of Labour Party in 2023 elections, Mr. Peter Obi, was absent from that meeting.
See, what exactly is a coalition? Let's get it right. For ADC to be asking people to resign from their own parties and come into the ADC, essentially what it's advocating is mass defection, which makes nonsense of the notion of a coalition. If you look at the way coalitions work generally, members of a coalition are people who belong to other parties who come together within their respective parties to try and either unseat an incumbent or form a formidable opposition. But that does not necessarily mean they repudiate their home. So for ADC to be saying, leave your parties and you must come and join ADC, it's no longer a coalition. It now simply becomes mass defection, and the people are leaving their parties to become members of ADC. If they were forming a true coalition, what they would do is that individual parties would probably all just fold themselves into the ADC, and those parties would cease to exist. So rather than saying that Peter Obi should resign from Labour, Atiku should resign from APC, which I believe he has done, Rufai resign from APC, those parties would fold themselves into one umbrella as a coalition, either cooperating together as their individual parties or letting their individual parties go, and then they all fold themselves into a new structure. So ADC saying they should essentially leave their old parties and become members of the ADC. Coalition is simply cooperation in this instance. It's no longer coalition. But what we care for in Nigeria is to have a formidable opposition, because that's the only thing that makes democracy thrive. So however they put together that opposition, I think we should focus more on the notion of having a viable opposition, but that opposition can come about by a coalition of interests.
I'm sure.
Let's understand the semantics properly. A coalition of interests will come together to form a viable and formidable opposition, which is what is key for Nigeria's democracy to thrive, to be vibrant, to check and balance the existing administration, to make it transparent and accountable, and to also proffer alternative policy suggestions.
Mr. Chitobi, I'm sure why the ADC wants that is because they perhaps need some sort of 100% commitment. For instance, Peter Obi was absent from this stakeholders meeting yesterday.
Yes.
So I'm sure that's what they're looking at. You know what? If you're in with us, come and show that you're fully with us. Speak to the absence of Peter Obi from that meeting, and then let's also touch on this INEC's leadership change transition, because it's really very significant ahead of the 2027 elections as well.
Yes, see, for media analysts and prognosticators who read the tea leaves, you look at Peter Obi's not attending that interview yesterday, and you begin to try to understand. Is it a fractionalization of this opposition that's just coming together? Is Peter Obi beginning to think that maybe he can't get the ticket and is now trying to look elsewhere as to where he can pursue his presidential? Yes, exactly. Because remember, in Nigerian politics of today, the only usefulness of a political party is to give you a platform from which to run. We're not coalesced around an ideology politically that now means that like minds stay in the same platform. No, most Nigerian political parties are marriages of strange bedfellows, which Bukola alluded to earlier, and the only thing that's uniting interests is the ability to use that platform to leapfrog into office. So if you see that it can't serve that purpose, you ultimately go shopping around for another platform that can achieve that ambition for you. The other interesting story yesterday was the fact that former President Goodluck Jonathan visited David Mark, who is the chairman of the ADC, or the quote-unquote coalition. That has also set tongues wagging, and that is as formidable, as pressing a story as Peter Obi not attending the meeting. So Peter Obi didn't attend the meeting of the ADC bigwigs, and President Jonathan then visited David Mark of the same ADC. Can we draw parallels there in terms of what can we prognosticate about those two separate incidents? Are they related? Is there some backroom dealing going on here in terms of?
And I imagine this will be giving the APC some sleepless nights.
Some jitters, without a doubt. Some jitters. Let me talk quickly about the INEC leadership. INEC is pivotal to credible elections. Whoever is at the helm of INEC is who ultimately dictates the way elections go. In the past, we've had some good leaders of INEC, we've had some bad ones, but ultimately the buck stops at the table of whoever is in charge. So 2027 is very critical in terms of political transition from one administration to the other, from one party to another, to whoever, where the tenure of the current INEC chairman, his 10-year tenure, ends in 2025. So somebody else is going to take his place and run 2027 elections. So of course there's a lot of concern about, first of all, the method of appointment of the INEC chairman. Does that confer advantages on the party in power at the time the person is appointed? Do we need to rejig or restructure the way we appoint INEC chairman and INEC commissioners? Should it really be independent in terms of, do we need perhaps a group of civil society, retired judges, elder statesmen? Do we need a group of non-aligned, non-partisan, loyal Nigerians to sit down and look at the electoral? Do we need professional election managers? Perhaps do we have courses in universities where people are professionally trained to run elections? Are those the type of, because we've used academics, we've used professors from the beginning till now, and we've never had an election that satisfied everybody as free and fair after 1990.
I'm not just journalists, broadcasters, and we've been covering elections for many years now.
I nominate you to be the first.
Well, Mr. Akitobi,
yes.
That item is in the current electoral reform, and the advocacy, particularly of civil society, is that the appointment should be taken away from the influence of the politician.
Absolutely.
But the question is, will this administration, led by President Bola Tinubu, give that assent to that part of the legislation that would remove the influence from the appointment of the president? Well, the answer to that question, you and I have a fair idea of what it would be. But speaking of what we require these politicians to do, The Guardian has us reflecting this morning on the economy, on what President Bola Tinubu has inherited and where we currently are. Economic recovery, Nigeria not broke, but deep fiscal concerns linger. Nigeria's fiscal performance overview, and we see there debt service to revenue ratio, the count from 2014. In 2014, what we had was 29%. 2022, we had 73%. 2023, Debt service to revenue ratio was 69.2%, and in 2024 we have 59.9%. And we see also revenue and expenditure. Total revenue 2024, 19.35 trillion naira, and the count goes on and on. So Nigeria, as it has been said traditionally, doesn't have a spending problem or doesn't have a revenue problem. It's an expenditure problem. Mr. Akitobi, I'd like you to speak to the statistics provided by The Guardian.
Did you notice a pattern in those numbers that you reeled out? All the aspects of expenditure is reducing. You talked about debt to GDP ratio, 70-something%
in 2022.
2023, it was less. 2024, less. So essentially what it means is we are improving our financial situation. On the other hand, if you look at the other side, which is the income side, the numbers are up. So debt problems are reducing, income problems are increasing. That ultimately means we're on the right path. It means we're improving our economic lot. But as the headline leads, it says we're not broke, but we're still in a dicey, rocky situation, because the fact that the numbers are getting better does not mean they're good yet. It's like inflation. When we say inflation stayed steady last month, it just means it didn't increase as high as it was the previous month. It doesn't mean it has reduced the price of goods in the market. Same thing here. There is an improvement. Debt to income is reducing the ratio, but it doesn't mean it's at a comfortable level yet. But there's hope on the horizon, because as long as the numbers are moving in the right direction, I think those who are pulling the levers of the economy are doing a very good job at making sure that there's improvement in the macro. The macro simply looks at the overall, things like interest rates, lending rates, inflation numbers. But the challenge is to translate the gains in the micro to the micro, the man on the street, the prices of goods, prices of fuel, rent, minimum wage, things that affect the quality of life of the individual Nigerian. And I think the government says economy is stabilizing. We're now waiting to see that stability translate to economic gains in the pockets of the Nigerian citizen generally.
And speaking of the pockets of the Nigerians here, Leadership Friday has another rider here. It says 200% price surge pushes egg and chicken off Nigeria's menu. Fear of protein deficiency heightens. Ministry, farmers, consumers, trade blame. 200% price surge pushes egg, chicken off Nigeria's menu. When I saw this morning, I just laughed because Mr. Akitobi, yesterday, my colleague Bukola, actually we went shopping, and she bought chicken and egg. But I mean, let's not go there. But how concerning is this? For you? Because
when Bukola got into the supermarket or to the market, was she horrified at the price she saw?
She wasn't, Mr. Akitobi.
She took it in
I must confess, she wasn't.
Thank God Bukola can afford it. Now that you're pushing it on my table. But there are many people who cannot afford it.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the reality of the situation.
This is the truth. The 200 price increase is astronomical, because even to begin with, before the increase, people were already having difficulty affording staples. Once upon a time in Nigeria, yes, chicken has always been a delicacy. When I was growing up, we always looked forward to Sunday jollof rice and chicken. That was always the delicacy of the week. But chicken has got to a point whereby it has become pretty much a staple, because we locally produce it very well. We have very well-run poultries in Nigeria that produce chicken, produce eggs, and it is not something that should cost as much as it does. But because of issues of disease, issues of feed, issues of power, irrigation, they require a lot of water, and generating water in Nigeria has become quite a bit of a challenge. So all the ancillary costs that takes to put a chicken on your table or an egg in your pot, all the costs have escalated. So it will, of course, have a bottom line effect on the cost of putting the chicken and the egg on your table. Bottom line is that I don't think it's limited to chicken and eggs alone. I think generally cost of food in Nigeria has become unaffordable based on a 70,000 naira minimum wage. I think, remember this local parlance, 110,101,001, in terms of how many square meals a family can afford. It was not too long ago where 3 square meals were a standard in Nigeria, but now we're barely able to afford that. So I think government can assist in many ways. I think agriculture generally needs to be subsidized more. I see government trying to give tractors, give fertilizer, give soft loans to farmers. There are various things government has tried to do. I think they can also deploy technology, mechanization, but a lot lies in the hands of government because food security is number one for any population. Food security is key.
Yeah, there you have it. A huge question mark, and government's proclaimed increased investment in agriculture. But we must anchor at this point, Mr. Akitobi. Thank you so much for coming through, as always, on the newspaper review segment.
It's always a great pleasure. A good weekend to Nigeria.
Indeed. And when we return from this break, we'll begin the very first leg of our conversation. President Bola Tinubu has conferred posthumous honors on the Ogoni 4. Does this lay to rest the age-long controversy on the circumstances surrounding the murder of the Ogoni 4? And of course, does it bring healing to Ogoni land? We'll ask those questions after this break. Stay with us.